Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapisa Sibidi. Now, in our first story, Education Minister Dr. Duchum is laying out an ambitious infrastructure plan to end double track by 2024. The double track system under the free SHS policy remains unpopular with parents. 2020 reports by Ghana showed that most parents surveyed wanted the double track abolished. Speaking at a news conference on Sunday, Dr. Duchum was emphatic government was on course to phasing out the system completely. We'll bring you that story later on the show. Now, pupils and teachers of the Apensing Fosu MA Basic School in the Bono East region can now heave a sigh of relief after the chief of Hansua and Memuhini of the Techiman Traditional Council handed over a 6-unit classroom block with auxiliary facilities to the school. The gesture, according to the philanthropist, is to eliminate the hardship facing school-going children in the area. Bono East Regional Director of Education, Mrs. Efua Amwa, at a brief handing over ceremony, called on all to be supportive by contributing towards improving the standard of education in their various communities. And Asabit has more.
Gathered at the church to mourn his death.
You are begging God. You are begging God. Schoolgoers wake up. Wake up, Daddy.
For some MA Basic School used to work now have access to education.
As I am talking to you afterwards, I am short of words. Words alone cannot be able to express.
Apologize for that sound, but in the Ashanti region, about 95% of Ghana's population who are eligible blood donors remain reluctant to voluntarily donate blood to help stock the country's blood banks. Now, that's according to the head of the Blood Transfusion Medicine Unit of the Konfanachi Teaching Hospital, Dr. Shirley Owusu-Ofre.
Of its population must voluntarily donate blood. But health authorities observe Ghana is doing way below the target because many shy away from donating blood. Dr. Shirley Owusu-Ofre is head of the Blood Transfusion Medicine Unit at Konfanoto Teaching Hospital.
And as a country, only 5% of our eligible donors donate blood. That means that about 95% of people who can donate for some reason shy away from blood donation. And I want us to be encouraged by the fact that a 65-year-old young man who has been given consistently is in good health and continues to give. If you haven't tried it before, give it a try. And that will help us overcome the hurdle of only 5% of the eligible population donating. The World Health Organization's standards say that if 1% of a country's population give blood, the country's blood needs are met. So we are now going to do a new census, but if we are assuming our population is 30 million, if we had 300,000 blood donors, Ghana would be good. We would be good in terms of our blood needs, and we wouldn't need family members to come into hospital to give blood when there's an emergency. I think on our last count, we had about 150,000 donations. We didn't quite meet the expectation, but so we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
CATH, which is a central zonal blood center for the National Blood Service, currently has 80% of voluntary blood donors. Officials are therefore employing new strategies to encourage more voluntary donors.
That can only happen when me and you decide that twice, 3 times a year, we will do it on our birthdays, we will do it on our wedding anniversaries, we will do it on our children's birthdays, and we will just do it for the sake of humanity.
She revealed this at a blood donation exercise to mark the birthday of the head pastor of Calvary Charismatic Center. Pastor Ransford Obeng mobilized members of his congregation to support the blood bank.
At the age of 60, we started this exercise that every year when I am celebrating my birthday, we will have blood donation. So whatever position or God gives you, whatever blessing God gives you, it is not only for yourself, it's also for others. And so anybody that has been blessed, use that blessing to serve other people and to help other people.
Pastor Bain also used the occasion to encourage participation in the upcoming census. Prince Apia reporting.
Now, calls have intensified for governments to scrap taxes on imported sanitary pads. Latest to join the campaign is Obuasi-based all-female NGO Self Love Foundation, which believes that removal will empower teenagers, especially from less privileged and deprived communities. Stakeholders say taxes levied on the products claws back the gains the country has made in promoting girl-child education. President Hilary Jesse made the call at a relationship seminar at the Obuasi campus.
Sanitary towels are not luxury items. Taxes levied on the products crawls back on the gains that the country has made in promoting girl-child education. It also risks negating the achievement of sustainable development goals. Leadership of the association are worried menstruation is the major contributing factor to school absenteeism and poor academic performance among schoolgirls. Hilary Ekoba Jesse is president of the association.
Menstrual pads or any other device used for menses were mostly unaffordable to some of these girls, especially in SHS and JHS. And that is why we at Self Love, we partnered with another NGO known as Kuju, who are providing menstrual cups. I think that's a very laudable move by Adjwasafo, because like I said previously, most of these girls or even their parents can't afford menstrual pads as the costs now. So if you are removing taxes to make it more affordable to parents, to students, I think it's a laudable idea that we all support.
On average, a girl will have 13 menstruation cycles a year. 2 sanitary towels may be used for a flow. This means between 13 to 16 sanitary pads may be needed per year. Officials of the Self Love Foundation therefore donated about 1,000 menstrual cups. A menstrual cup can be used for 10 years.
Back here in Accra, gender rights advocates are challenging women to rise beyond the cultural stereotypes that are restricting their growth and development. According to them, women play a key role in all aspects of society and should not underestimate their strengths and capabilities. They made this known when the Obasima campus tour train touched base with female students of the University of Professional Studies in Accra.
Addressing students of the University of Professional Studies during the Obasima campus tour, Dean of the Graduate School, Dr. John Mauto, said some of the impediments to women empowerment is steeped in cultural beliefs. He noted evidence abounds that women are equally capable as their male counterparts. He added that if society wants women to be empowered, everyone must be conscious of the role women play.
Because I really want to start this program growing from year to year, because you should know that in the contemporary world that we live today, women empowerment, people do not understand. The world doesn't understand. Some women don't even understand. But if you understand and appreciate the contribution of women, then the issue of empowerment shouldn't be something that should probably be swayed to only women, but men have a role to play when it comes to empowering women.
On her part, one of the organizers of the tour, Amma Pratt, said conscious efforts must be made to rewrite the portrayal of women in the media. She pointed out that a woman's place isn't restricted to domestic affairs.
I'm more concerned about the information that I'm getting than the look of the information that I'm getting. That's my expectation. Like I need, give me something good, give me something meaningful, give me, you know what I'm saying. So that's my expectation. And it's important to me as a woman because, forgive me, sometimes in these spaces, media, advertising, and again, entertainment, we tend to go for looks, sex sells. And I say looks in a very stereotypical way. So the very specific look that is pushed out as being beautiful or as being sexy. And my expectation is that that would be a secondary consideration, you know, that the intellect of who is churning out information and the factual basis comes first.
One of the guest speakers, Caroline Simpson, said many women are underrepresented because of their gender. She encouraged young women to set their goals and priorities to achieve what they seek to be.
You are actually okay. You are. So you cry, you can do the things. So this is it. And in achieving that, there's another thing that I don't do. Rush my progress. I used to MC shows with Bola Ray in 2006 and 7 when he was already Bola, but I was just that Miss Malika girl. It's just I had a lot of gigs, so yeah. I never thought that I had arrived. They would give him this amount of money and they would be asking me, and they're ready to actually give me maybe half of it. But I say something else, and then my friend would be like, say what? A common is our time, and the jobs that came, I took them and I went. I wanted to move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 10, wherever it is. Because if I actually rushed from 1 to 10 and I missed out 2 to 8, chances are when I'm falling, I'm coming all the way to 1. Because I did not set any type of foundation for the 2 to 8. So there's nothing there to hold me, to cushion me. Do not.
Now, poultry farmers in the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region are lamenting the high cost of maize and other components of feeds, which they say serve as a threat to the poultry business in the area. According to the group, the supply of maize, which constitutes over 50% of poultry feeds, continue to shrink while the price has skyrocketed and gone beyond the reach of most poultry farmers. They want the government to intervene to save the industry from collapsing.
Ghana once had a very vibrant poultry industry which created jobs for thousands of Ghanaian youth. Unfortunately, inadequate financial support and incentive packages for players in the industry had over the years led to the gradual collapse of the industry and the retrenchment of a large number of employees. In recent times, the high cost of feed production, which is as a result of maize shortage and high cost of imported feed, is making worse the plight of the poultry farmer. Mr. Emmanuel Opoku is the chairman of the Techiman Municipal Poultry Farmers Association. He shares with us some of the problems confronting the poultry industry in the area.
Last year, there was no adequate rain, so the maize couldn't, thrive well. In fact, that is one of the problems. That is the problem of feed, and then the cost of the other components of feed, they are now very, very high that we cannot meet it. And then the third one is the egg glut. An egg that is sold for about 20 cedis is now sold at 14 cedis. So many of the farmers are now facing problems. How to feed the birds. There is no help from anybody. Many of the farmers have gone in for loans, they cannot pay.
Mr. Emmanuel Opoku adds that if care is not taken, the poultry industry may collapse.
This year in particular, 2021, many of the farmers started selling their birds because they can't feed them. So if care is not taken, there will be a time the poultry industry is going to collapse.
For Mr. Prince Jan, also a poultry farmer in the Techiman municipality, with supply exceeding demand, the only way out is for government to come to their rescue by introducing policies that will increase the consumption of eggs, especially in schools.
today that we have supply exceeding demand. So definitely this is what we will go through. But that is where we needed government most. Government has brought in a very good, interventional project such as free SHS and the feeding. Government could have, made a policy that we use our eggs to feed the schools. Now there are so many things they use in substitution, and I think that if government could do better to revise certain things, government will be popular.
In the midst of all these challenges, a leading provider of agri-care in the Bono East region, Oak Farms, organized a day workshop to take poultry farmers into proper management of poultry farms to maximize production. Dr. Oakland is a retired veterinarian and the CEO of Oak Farms. He says though farmers go through a lot of challenges, this is not the time to throw in the towel.
Well, what I can say is that they say tough times don't last, but tough people do. So at the moment, I think they need to hang on and then try to improve upon the efficiency and what they're doing in order to actually maximize their production and productivity. Yes, and I know that I think it's a transient kind of problem, and I know that the situation will normalize soon. So I want to encourage them to hold on, because I think that there's always a silver lining behind the dark clouds. So I think the situation will normalize soon.
He, however, called on policymakers to introduce clear-cut plans that would help in creating marketing space for produce of poultry farmers.
What policymakers can do is actually to come out with maybe clear-cut plans for creation of marketing space for their produce, so that they can also at the end of the day sell, pay off their financial other commitments, and also make some profits.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
And that's how we end the AM News. I am Apitso CBD.
And this is where we actually dig into the newspapers. Hopefully you enjoyed that tune coming your way this morning. But on now to the papers and what they're saying. I'll just give you the headlines initially, and then we shall dig into the stories. Now, a number of things to look at in the Daily Graphic, which talks about the 100 billion Ghana Cedi Obatampa package. Government places youth at center. That's according to the Finance Minister, Ken Oforiatta. I'll bring you details of that. Reforms to improve educational system. That's on page 16. If you grab a copy of the paper, you can get details of that. And the new fares take off today. Of that 13% increment. And so it takes off today. Prices have changed. So if you bought any public transport and you're told that indeed the fares have changed, let it not lead to any trading of fisticuffs. So it's the new thing. The fares have changed. But what exactly is going to be the impact of that? We'll be engaging some of you this morning. In fact, my colleague Manuel Kranting will be out and about on that beat. We also have Can Mining Spur Local Enterprise Growth? That's a news feature in the center spread of the paper. And on the back page, Gama's goal, I should say, wins derby for Kotoko at Lankley. That's on the back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. And if you followed proceedings yesterday, of course, Accra had to evoke locking horns with Great Olympics. Drawing there, it was a stalemate between the two. And Asante Kotoko, of course, won at the Lankley Stadium, overpowering Obuasi. So Ashanti Gold of Obuasi. Now, we do the Ghanaian Times newspaper now. Financing of free SHS. Government spent 7.7 billion Ghana cedis so far. That's between 2017 and 2021. A lot of questions were asked of the Education Minister. And yesterday at the Ministry of Information, he had some answers to some of the questions that had been posed. Of course, even among us media people, there were some that were left hanging, some that we felt had not been thoroughly attended to. But at least now we know when it comes to the bit about the sum spent so far, we're looking at something hovering around 7.7 billion Ghana cedis. There's also the story, Kenoforiata Usue Friako to others to answer urgent questions by MPs. Find out why on page 4 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. And in recent times, we were hit by this news. World mourns Prophet TB Joshua. Some reports stating that he had suffered a stroke 2 months ago, had gone to Turkey to seek treatment, was back, and unfortunately, just a few days ago, succumbed. So some claiming that it was on the back of a stroke 2 months ago, and others saying it was just his time, but his church has been reacting. And that's the news we've got so far. Ketu South tidal waves cause more havoc, sweep away Srive Forest. In the middle spread of the paper, 14 suspects nabbed in joint police military swoop in Ho. And on the back page, Kotoko overcome Ash Gold. In other news, sporting news, football news, I should say, Atenga header saves day for Mediama. Let's now look at the Finder newspaper. And here's what they found. We hope ENI will back statements with action. That's according to Springfield. And that has become a bit of a tricky issue. But hopefully the resolution of that will be soon. We all know how much Ghana stands to gain by way of revenue if that pulls through. And so we're looking at that. We're keeping a keen eye on that as far as business is concerned. Media should set ethical standards. That's according to Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma. 1,250 have been killed in 5 months. And that represents a 37.67% increase over the 908 killed in the same period in 2020. And it's all about the carnage on our roads. Minister unhappy about state of tourism infrastructure in Central Region. I'm talking about the tourism minister. When you go to the center spread, those same stories there. Let's quickly take a look at the Ghanaian the new publisher newspaper now. And it talks about pirates target Ghana seas. Afenyo Markin tells ECOWAS Parliament, and that's something we ought to be looking at in terms of our maritime borders and protection. Ichumang Wabeja prays for freedom from MCE, and ex-convict businessman Opong Checheku in fresh trouble. So those are some of the interesting stories there. When you go to the middle spread of the paper, government's total spending on SDGs up by 14%. GRA sensitizes Ghanaians on new VAT levies. All of that in that newspaper. The Daily Dispatch now. I regret lawyers boycotted drafting of 1992 Constitution. That's Sam Okujeto speaking there. There's also population composition and age structure in Ghana. You can check out details. Galamsey, cut access to my farm because I refused to sell my land. That's according to the majority leader. He is sharing his thoughts on that. That's on page 2. And then workers' boss on those to enjoy new minimum wage. Of course, you know there's been an upward adjustment, but some too have said that what can you do with a little over 12 Ghana cedis, which is a little over $2, just about $2.13. What can you do with that, even as a single person, not to talk of a wife and a child? So these are matters that ought to be given a critical look at. On the back page, you'll find that story where Sam Okujeto, I'm speaking of the lawyer, not the member of parliament, who says, on hindsight, I regret GBA boycotting the 1992 Constitution drafting. Let's look now at the Daily Guide newspaper. And it says, Ndum challenger spills beans in U.S. court. You've heard about the woes of businessman and, should I say, former politician Papa Kwesi Ndum. Well, there seems to be more as the plaintiff Asino pursuing the Ndum family over the alleged loss of depositors' funds, running into over $100 million in a court in Chicago in the United States, has filed another response explaining why the defendants cannot say they are not liable for the loss of the funds. And SHS enrollment rises to 1.2 million. That is some more information that we've been getting on the back of that engagement with the education minister only yesterday. When you go to the middle spread of the paper, the entertainment page, you would see there, Tenny recounts COVID-19 experience, vows to take vaccine. And so after a harrowing experience with COVID-19, Tenny has recounted her experience. There's African Icon Awards 2021 slated for July 24. And in other news, you would also see there how the mining sector has raked in 4.172 billion. Now, let's move on to the Republic Press newspaper. TB Joshua had stroke, like I was mentioning earlier. That is a report that is coming through from some outlets, specifically The Cable in Nigeria. Chief Justice challenged over Dr. Dominic Ayine invitation. That's also there over the weekend on Newsfile. A lot of personalities, including the likes of H. Kwesi Prempeh, others, sharing their thoughts on the matter and feeling, in this instance, it appears the judiciary is becoming overbearing, overweening. But others have also cited cases to say, well, in other cases, we've had people hauled before the General Legal Council and certain actions have been taken. So why should this be treated any differently? Woman burns after husband pushed her into hot water over failure to serve him supper. And that's a very sad one. You can find it on page 3. It's been trending on social media. It's got a lot of tongues wagging. And I believe we really ought to take abuse seriously, especially marital abuse. Dofsu in the mix, doing a yeoman's job, but a lot more remains to be done. And on the back page of the paper, related, protecting the rights of children, the law, barriers, and the realities. It's an interesting piece you would want to check out from the Republic Press, I should say. The Inquisitor now, these are the men. Which men? Well, President Akufo-Addo, Edward Akufo-Addo, Keno Foriata, Nana Santibediatu, Gabi Ochredako have their images there. You can read the paper, find out why these are the men, what exactly the reason is for citing them there. Then there's Rawlings was walking criminal. Now, this has got a lot of people talking. Bwachijan has been speaking. In fact, he was speaking on June 4, and he's been sharing some thoughts. In fact, let me just do this and get into some of the details of what he's been saying. He says, so to summarize, the two ex-military officers that we've come to know as far as June 4 is concerned, Bwachijan has constantly refused this, stressing that Rawlings, the other person, played no direct role in the coup, which was anchored on the principle of probity and accountability. He talks about the overthrow of Liman in 1981. And I'm quoting here. Bwachijan says, he died, and he here refers to Rawlings, as a walking criminal. The fact that I built a democracy doesn't mean that I could bear responsibility for somebody destroying it. Remember, we handed power over to Hilla Liman, and I left to London to do my postgraduate course, and 31st December came. I was not here, but on the same day, I opposed it and put down my uniform to roll it back, which in the end, I succeeded in doing. And he ends, remember, the rule of law we used to hold senior officers accountable was the same difficulty that the second takeover had put us in. Of course, there's more there, but that is Bwachijan's assertion when it comes to President Rawlings and what happened in the Liman era. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Well, those are the thoughts shared by Bwachijan. When you take a look at the Business and Financial Times, it says Alan woos American investors as U.S. Exim Bank supports 1D1F with a $300 million U.S. facility. And there is the PAC DBIA, which advises the American president on business, commercial issues, especially in respect of Africa. And Alan Tremanting has, of course, been attempting to get a slice of that cake for Ghana. But this story has, got me very interested. It's piqued my interest. And when I dig into the papers fully, I shall give you details of that. Galamsey destroys 20 acres of cocoa farms weekly. Now, when we see it like this, 20 acres, sometimes it's very nebulous. It's not so clear. 20 acres, you're looking at about between 15 and 20 football fields. That is what it really means. And this is happening every week. Galamsey destroys 20 acres of cocoa farms weekly. So that is about 20 football fields, 15 to 20 approximately, that go down, in terms of cocoa farm losses. We're fighting Galamsey, but of course, it looks as though we have to ramp it up, do much more to reclaim what we have lost, if it can even be done. There are other interesting stories in the Daily Statesman, big gains in education. It talks about Educhum and what he's been sharing in that respect. Double sale of land, chiefs landowners to serve 10-year jail term. That's the Daily Statesman. Today newspaper says Group Undum accelerates legal action. And there's also Listen to Fix the Country campaigners over the weekend. Some interesting information coming through on the back of that campaign. Economy Times, banks prepare to cut interest rates. Government misses budget deficit target. And then the Custodian newspaper, which says we're chasing out ghosts on payroll. So the deputy Finance Minister designate Abena Osei-Asare has been speaking on that matter. And this is an age-old matter that even former Auditor General, yes, I should say, had been working on, talking about ghosts on government's payroll. It's a matter that has become a real concern, but it's being dealt with. And Abena Osei-Asare is saying we're chasing out the ghosts on the payroll. When you look at the Custodian newspaper, there are other stories, but I'll dig into them as time allows it. So this is what I'm going to do very quickly. I'm going to take a look at some of those major headlines, and then we shall dig into them one by one. And we're going to start now with the Daily Graphic newspaper. The story here, government places youth at center of that $100 billion Obatampa package. That story, let me just get to it. Continued on page 3, but it's right here on the front page. The Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, has commenced a series of engagements with the youth across the country aimed at igniting an entrepreneurial spirit for accelerated job creation and financial independence for the nation's youth. The program is part of efforts to share and urge the youth of Ghana to take advantage of opportunities in the 100 billion Ghana cedi COVID-19 alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support. That is the Obatampa program. I'll tell you what. Of course, I know a lot of young people would want to see what the core benefits are of this to them in reality. Yesterday at the Ministry of Information briefing, it was not just the Education Minister who was there. The focus was more on him. But we also had the NBSSI boss, and I hear there's going to be an upgrade of that. There's going to be an increment in the sums of money available to them and what they can do as far as, enterprises are concerned. And that is something that I believe the youth can also feed into. But just how much of an impact will this have? Well, the minister was also the special guest mentor at the maiden edition of the Springboard Youth Dialogues, an initiative of the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. And there's been a lot of talk about how all of these can impact the youth in terms of, especially in these times of COVID-19 and the economic hardship it has come with. A few other stories from the Daily Graphic, and tributes are pouring in for TB Joshua, born on June the 12th, 1963. Temitope Balogun Joshua. He was a Nigerian charismatic pastor, televangelist, and philanthropist. Now, there are some who have, hailed him for his work, his philanthropy especially, but others have also said all manner of things about him. Well, at least you know how we do it. We say that you don't speak ill of the dead. Some have cited that even in terms of Bwachijan and what he's been saying about former President Rawlings on June the 4th. The middle spread of the Daily Graphic this morning talks about mining and can mining spur local enterprise growth? And it's an opinion, it's a feature there. You can check it out. On the back page, stories about Gama's goal winning the derby for Kotoko. And that will be it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's take a look now at the Ghanaian Times. And more issues cropping up. So government spent 7.7 billion Ghana cedis so far between 2017 and 2021. That's on page 16. And according to the Education Minister, the amount constituted disbursements made since the policy was rolled out from 2017 till date. And speaking at that media briefing, the minister gave a breakdown of the disbursement as 2017, that is 480 million Ghana cedis. Then in 2018, 1.137.861 billion Ghana cedis. 2019, 1.68 billion Ghana cedis. 2020, 2.42 billion. And 2021, 1.974 billion. So you see an upward trajectory in terms of the sums of money we've been pumping into free SHS. Of course, this year still very much, we're just about halfway through. So it makes sense that we've not spent up to the 2.42 billion that we spent last year. But if you look at the trajectory, it means we're going to spend much more. He also said free SHS was a means to an end and not an end in itself. As a result, the government would continue to invest in the education of the youth of the country. Also important, something he said about 10 STEM schools, which would be completed by the end of the year, having all the necessary logistics from laboratory equipment to supporting staff teaching and learning as far as STEM is concerned. And so those 10 schools will be focused on STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Two major stories there from the Ghanaian Times newspaper as well. Let's check out the Daily Guide this morning. And it also has the story about SHS enrollment rising to 1.2 million. But I'll look at this story on page 6. It's more on crime, and a lot of people have been concerned about the spate of crime in the country. It says police break largest WeHaul in Ashaiman. That is on page 6. And 4 persons are in the grips of the Ashaiman police for allegedly attempting to smuggle what is said to be the largest narcotic consignment into the area for onward distribution to their customers. The suspects, namely Boniface Abaya, 31, Kwame Akwete, 31, Samuel Jandu, 30, Godwin Agbeshi, 29, who is a driver, and they had 892 slabs of compressed and well-packaged dried leaves suspected to be Indian hemp, popularly called weed. Now, here's what the police says. The suspects are facing a charge of conspiracy and unlawful possession of narcotics. And apparently the bust was on the back of some tip-off. So that is in there. But for those of you who have decided not to take the COVID-19 jab, here's what Tenny Apata, a female singer popularly known as Tenny, has recounted. And she says she has been sharing on her Instagram page, and she says she has vowed to take the COVID-19 vaccine and is advising her fans to get vaccinated. I'm quoting her here. You need to take precautions. You need to make sure we are working together to make sure that we are safe. Yeah, so let's fight COVID together. And she goes on to talk about her personal story and how, COVID nearly left her in the damper. So you can learn from Tenny. She is saying, well, she came that close and no one should get that close. So it's up to you if you've not taken the jab yet. Well, still more opportunities to take the jab, to do so. The Finder newspaper, 1,250 killed in 5 months. And of course, that has to do with the carnage on our roads. That's on page 2 of the paper. And new data compiled by the Motor Traffic and Transport Department, popularly known as the MTTD of the Ghana Police Service, has revealed that the number of commuters killed in road traffic crashes between January and May this year, just last month, rose to 1,250. That's a 37.67% increase in deaths compared to the 908 people killed in the first 5 months of 2020. The deaths have increased by that margin. And so far, we have 1,036 males who have died and 212 females who have been killed. In all, 352 pedestrians have been killed as well. So I believe this is a clarion call to all of us as we hit the streets every day. And it's not just for those who are driving, it's also for those who are in public transport. If your driver is over speeding, do ensure that you make mention of it. I'll take a quick look at the Republic Press newspaper. I'll just skip to this story right here. So there is the one about a woman burning after her husband pushed her into hot water. Linda was rushed to the Nkwanta Municipal Hospital due to burns on her back, and she accuses her husband of being an abusive man. And anytime she asks for any, money for homekeeping or housekeeping, there is abuse. But in this instance, I mean, it not only crossed the line, because I believe all the previous ones have crossed the line, but this one caused actual bodily harm to her. And the prayer is that the law will actually go on to secure justice for Linda. Page 5 talks about Nigeria's Twitter ban, and we'll be talking a bit more about that as we connect with our compatriots in Nigeria. I'll wrap with this one in the Daily Dispatch newspaper on the back page. On hindsight, I regret GBA boycotting the 1992 Constitution drafting. And that's according to Sam Okujeto, who says that he regrets that the GBA stayed out of the meeting that drafted the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. He says, looking at how things are today, the GBA's input would have been very helpful. And maybe finally, to summarize, he wants the president to revisit the recommendations made by the Constitutional Review Commission. That goes as far back as 2010. How much did we do with that information? In the next minute or so, let's wrap with some news from myjoyonline.com as we bring you the details from there. And every student in primary 4 to write a national standardized test this year. So they will be sitting that exam. The education minister made mention of that yesterday. There is famous televangelist TB Joshua reportedly flew to Turkey for stroke treatment 2 months ago. And we shouldn't look to scoring political points with educational system. That's according to Yao Educhum. So there's that back and forth, especially between the NDC and the MPP when it comes to these matters. But he is saying we shouldn't score political points on that. Provide number of injunctions police have procured to stop a demonstration since 1994. That's what the hashtag Fix the Country convener has been saying. They have been petitioning the IGP. And the mood, a lot more about TB Joshua, the mood at the Synagogue Church of All Nations as people express shock at TB Joshua's demise. More on Fix the Country, and Caleb Kuda requests for CCTV footage, other critical information from national security. And you can also get the profile of Prophet TB Joshua, founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations. So those are some of the stories on myjoyonline.com. You can check out more stories from that portal. But this morning we want to say, right before I move away and hand over, happy birthday to Daryl Kwewu of Joy Business. I spotted my brother this morning. Happy birthday to you. Very calm, very affable personality, very hardworking as well. We pray for a lot of blessings, God's grace upon your life. Daryl, happy birthday to you. Well, it's time now for me to move away. Sports is up next, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more about the Ashanti Derby and, of course, the Accra Derbies as well yesterday. Do stay.
It was a night where video assistant referee became more important than ever in Ghana football. In the Manchester Derby, when Isaac Mensah struck in that ball, its entire circumference crossed the line. The conversation on social media has been that Accra House of Oak probably would have walked away from that fixture with 3 points, and that would have given them an opportunity of having 2 points advantage of their closest contenders for the league title for this season, Kumasi Asante Kotoko, who were also able to secure a 1-0 victory over Ashanti Gold in the Ashanti Derby. Elsewhere, Midiama SC were also able to walk away with a 1-0 win over Karela United. These and many more within the next 10 to 15 minutes with me, Muftaru Nabila Ablai, on the AM show on AM Sports. Now let's start with the fixture that happened at the Accra Sports Stadium, where honors were shared in the Ghana Premier League after Accra House of Oak had gone 5 games without a defeat, without conceding a goal. They came up against Great Olympics, and in that game, VAR became the talking point as Accra House of Oak were denied all points. The game ended 1-1.
Now has his eyes set on goal, but he needs the support. Threads the pass through. Lovely skill by Mediama. Good turn by Zaka. Can he get in a drive? He does. Second opportunity for Mediama Sporting Club, and it's cleared out. It is part for Karela. Let's now see what they can do between now and the end of the season. Ball floated into the 18-yard box. That was quick reflexes from Beidou, and he scores 4 marks. Eric Kwakwa now sets up the pass to the near side. It comes. This is looking good for Samoa. Kwakwa again. This could be a chance for Midiama. Good save. Rashid Note does what to turn. Fires in, and again Richard Beidou scores another set of 4 marks.
Beidou on a west, but Beidou, another great reflex save.
Ball floated in. This could be it. Eventually is in. Eventually is in.
Look at him just before the header. He moved. And
exactly.
he was just
there was
going
no
for the
contact whatsoever.
Exactly.
So there was no way he could have caused an impediment there.
No.
He rather prevented the goalkeeper from having a clearer view of what was happening, although he got his fingers to it. But then the reaction from Matinga was quick. We'll do just that. Now this looks enterprising for Asma as he sends in the cross. That's the first goal from Fabio Gama. Right place, right time. Deadlock is broken.
Against the run of play. Now, Prince, look at that cross. Delicious cross. And Gama at the right place to not home. And the former Botafogo man, Fabio Gama, writing his name.
Ash Gold maintain their pressure as they come forward. Lovely pass through there. Could this be the equalizing goal? Player goes down. Game will continue.
That incident here again. It was that pass from Amos Adai back to Sedose, and Ganiyu with that tackle. It was Wahab rather. In a great
draw first blood, and Emmanuel Jemfi on the other side, well, thought that he had the better.
Junior does what to go past Hamza. Early ball onto the part of Barnier, who fights for it and is cleared by Danso only as far as Isaac Mensah. Is it a goal? Against the woodwork. Alright, so that's the effort coming in here. Isaac Mensah, what a hit, what a drive. That ball seemed to have just Salifu's corner. Goalkeeper Ben Asari gets it away. And it's a belter of a goal. Emmanuel Nete. Stupendous. This is magnificent. What a bullet of a strike from Emmanuel Nete. And this man, Samuel Buedu, super excited. Yes, I can get that feeling Samuel Bodu is getting. Oh, this is an incredible finish, really is. The assistant coach Hamza would dance to celebrate this goal. This is beautiful. It's yeah. Now Hamza Zakari. Watson gets the cross in, header in, Maxwell. Great Olympics. Abekwe has brought Olympics back into business. His 8th of the season, and it's 1-1. What a game. To the turf before finding the back of the net. It's only the first time Radio Vuka has made any mistake or whatsoever in the game. gets the ball, tried to spin around his man, and he lost the ball. Credit to Kwamina Boateng. What a ball into the box. The whip on the cross is good. The movement from Maxwell Abekwe is decent. But once he plants the header into the turf, always difficult for Atta to reach it.
Before the very eyes of about 20 to 25,000 football spectators, the conversation has been that VAR is what Ghana needs. Goal line technology is what Ghana needs. In the 2010 World Cup, there was such a similar story when Germany came up against England when Frank Lampard scored that goal. And also in the Scudetto race of 2010-2011, when Suleimantari scored against Juventus, all these things forced VAR and goal line technology to come into being. And this is the time Ghana football needs either of these, be it VAR or goal line technology. Now let's hear from coaches who masterminded success or failures of their teams over the weekend. And we start with the Kerala head coach. They have gone 8 games without a win. However, head coach of that team, Augustine Adate, insists that they are still within the race to finish in the top 4. Whilst for that of Midiama SC's head coach, Yao Preko, they are in the hunt to win the Ghana Premier League title.
Oh, it wasn't too difficult for me because before at my pre-match meeting, I indicated that this game, I termed it a derby that Midiama we want at all costs to revenge. And for Kerala, we also to ensure that we are superior than Midiama. Should we carry the day or prevent them from scoring? At the end of the day, they came up as
because you beat them in the first round. They have revenge in the second half.
They revenge 1-0. So we take it so.
But obviously, the way forward is to keep the momentum on the top 4 clubs. Are you still on course?
Yeah, we are on course. Okay. We are not down at all.
Okay.
We only need to go back and make sure we also take the 3 points away from Legon cities.
Are you a relieved man?
Yeah, you can say that, but that doesn't mean I have to sleep. I don't have to sleep. I still have to work. It's part of the job, and it's a learning process.
We understand the plan is to get close to the top 4. Are you still on course?
Yeah, we are still on course.
Okay.
We are still on course.
You're not giving up
at all.
From these coaches, let's also hear from Kumasi Asante Kotoko's head coach. He was a man who heaved a sigh of relief because he had gone 3 games without a win. And when he came up against Ashanti Gold in the Ashanti Derby, he also walked away with all the important points, defeating Ashanti Gold by 1-0. However, in that game, he did not have some of his key players in the fixture. Now, he says that Kotoko have got the right to have their key players in a game such as the one against Ashanti Gold.
The result was the best for us. It was a very tough match. We come to this match with many problems. We lose around 9 players with injury, with the players who finish contract, who lives with malaria. Ivan Mudasiro play with malaria today, and Evans also. So we find some problems to make the best 11. But the players who come, they did it well. And we know Ashanti goals in the second half will try to revert. In the first half, we have 3-4 chances. The goalkeeper from Ashanti Gold make a fantastic save. Congratulations for him. He make a very good job. But my players, today they play with heart and with head. They need to suffer, and they suffer. When they need to run, they run. So we get the 3 points, what we are looking for, because we are in the run. This is a marathon. It's missing 6 matches now. Any mistakes can be a dead mistake. So we are alive. Even the players are available. They show we can wait, that they will fight for us. Of course it's affected the team. When I arrive, I have 9 players injured. In this moment, I have still 2 players coming from long injury, like Adom and Martin. The others, they have malaria. Abib was available because he get the 3rd yellow card. But we have another problem, because when national team plays, our players are in national team, and the other teams, they didn't release the players for national team. So
That's the head coach of Asante Kotoko talking about losing his key players either to sickness or to the national team. Now let's hear from the head coach of Accra House of Oak, who is demanding VAR in Ghana football because he felt his team could have walked away with 3 points if there was VAR.
We got a lot of chances, we scored, and the linesman disallowed. As the Mensah's goals, I think the ball crosses the line. It's a clear goal, but the linesman disallowed. But I mean, I don't want to talk about the officiating.
Now, do you think that calls for some technology into our game?
Exactly, because if that goal should have been awarded, then we can even do much better than this.
So obviously, they're calling for some technology to come into the game and maybe help.
Yeah, if you can get some it can help. When they bring it, it will definitely help the team. Now, goal line technology, it will help.
Exactly. Now, you created so many chances. Do you think you are lacking goal scoring up front strikers to do the job for you?
Yeah, you can say that, but you can see the chances that they squandered. We need to improve upon it. That's the reason why we are there. So when you go back, we're going to correct the mistakes, then we improve upon it.
Now, this result, what does it mean for you meeting your former side Media Macam weekend? You think it gives you enough confidence going into that game?
Oh, yeah. We are going there with confidently, and definitely we are going to win that match.
You know, I have to come from behind, so I'm satisfied.
Now, you saw that goal that was disallowed from Isaac Mensah. You felt it was a goal?
It wasn't a goal. When the ball hit the crossbar, it felt in, didn't fall
behind the line.
So it wasn't a goal.
No, but
That's why.
Do you think this your team is really in that shape to go far this season in the league?
Of course, yes. This is the team that I started with, and till now you can see our performance till now. So we can still go far.
Now let's do some tennis. That was the head coach of Accra Great Olympics, Anor Walker, denying that strike from Isaac Mensah crossed the line. But now let's do tennis, where the Ghana team is preparing for a Berlin GN Cup. My colleague, Michael Queno, paid them a visit and filed this report.
The Billie Jean King Cup, formerly known as the Fed Cup, is the premier international team competition in women's tennis. Ghana will compete in the Europe-Africa Zone 3 group scheduled from 15 June to 19 June 2021 and are in Pot 3 alongside Kenya, Iceland, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Rwanda, Namibia, Albania, Uganda, Botswana and Azerbaijan. Coach for the side, Albert Arthur, indicates that the shortlisted players currently undergoing training are enthusiastic and exhibiting promise on the court.
Currently, we are in a very good form to perform. So all the players that I have and then we're working together with are in their current peak performance. So I think we are good. The past 4 weeks that we've been preparing for the Billie Jean King Cup, the players have been well motivated, and then they are looking up for this tournament as well. They've been together for some time. They know each other already, so this is not like the first time they are coming together. So if you see them like that, they are quite confident that with the kind of training they are having and the kind of preparation they are being given, they can be able to perform to their maximum best. So
4 out of the 5 shortlisted players will have their names submitted to the ITF as Ghana's representatives to Lithuania, with the ITF setting a deadline of 12 June for submission. Albert Arthur believes he is close to finding his final team.
With this selection, we are basing our thing on the current peak performance. You know, when we say current peak performance, like if the players are at their peak of performing their best. So this is what we are looking at. And right now, what I have here, we have that getting closer, if not closer. We're closer to that. So probably we are in a good shape to see.
Anders Cruikshank, Grace Tomega, Nashika Macaulay, and Na Anyema Macaulay are 4 of the 5 shortlisted, and all are confident that their output in practice will earn them spots on the final team.
Training has been good. I've seen a lot of improvement in my game in the span of 3 or 4 weeks, and my game has improved. I'm able to keep up with the girls, so I'm very confident that I'll be able to make the qualifiers.
I'm playing good. I'm playing really well, but
I don't really know, but I'm confident that maybe.
I'm very confident with this. I've played a lot of tournaments, but this is different for me because it's my first senior tournament, even though I'm still young. But I feel like with my age and how I feel like I'm playing, I'm pretty confident.
Michelle Kwete-Quino, reporting for Joy Sports.
On this note, head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports story because that is your sports for now. And I am Muftau Nabila Ablai. The AM show continues with Benjamin Akako.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And at this juncture, we talk education. Of course, yesterday we heard from the Minister of Education for the first time at the Ministry of Information, presser events. And there were so many things that were spoken of, from the 10 STEM schools to be constructed, put up by the close of next year, to the boosting of infrastructure as far as education is concerned in the country, not just free SHS, and to other matters, of concern, even Wi-Fi in schools being brought up. Well, joining us for the conversation, we have Eko Asifua, who is a Member of Parliament for Tafu. He also is on the Education Committee of Parliament, and he joins us for this conversation. Mr. Asifua, a very good morning to you, sir. Do we have Eko Asifua?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have you join us. I hope you're well.
I'm hale and hearty. How are you this morning?
By God's grace. God has gifted us.
It's been a sad weekend, actually.
I know, it's been the same for all of us, but thank you for making time to join us for this conversation. And right. I'll pick your brains on, generally what the Education Minister has been saying. Now, you have been, interestingly, you've been PRO at the ministry, and so you have a hands-on knowledge of, the workings of the Ministry of our educational setup. Looking at some of the matters that were mentioned yesterday by the Education Minister, do you feel we are on a healthy path towards building our educational structures, especially in respect of free SHS? What is your thinking?
Well, let me say a very good morning to you and to your cherished viewers. Free SHS has been very topical. Not only today, but even before the build-up to the 2016 elections. And we've all known that free SHS has been one of the commitments of the new patriotic party, i.e., His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Now, free SHS in 2017 was implemented, even though it was shrouded with a lot of doubt as to its aptness, whether we were not in a hurry to implement it. But, of course, the belief has been that it is better to have our young men and young women in our various classrooms to learn, whether they sit on desk or they even sit on the floor to have education, rather than not having education at all, because the statistics over the years has been suggesting that yearly we had about 100,000 of our young men and young women not going to school. Now, the same statistics as put out by the Education Minister yesterday clearly also suggested that from 2014 to 2016, the numbers that we had in our various senior high schools was about 800,000. Fast forward from 2016 to 2021, we've had an increment to close to 1.3 million. That only corroborates the idea that averagely every year we had an increment of about 100,000.
Just about 1.2 million currently.
Come again?
Just about 1.2 million currently.
1.261 is close to 1.3 million. Is that okay?
We can always strike the average, but you go on.
Absolutely. So clearly, you could see that we've made giant strides as far as access is concerned. We also decided that it wouldn't be out of place if we also deal with quality. Quality issues do not happen by chance. Quality issues are deliberative attempt to ensure that you see quality in our education. And so if you have Ghana writing WASI, if you have Sierra Leone also writing WASI, if you have Gambia, Nigeria, about 5 African countries that write West African Examination Council examination. And if across all these 5 countries, we had 465 of our young men and young women attaining 8 A's in all the subjects. And out of the 465, 411 comes from Ghana. You can only be content with the fact that Ghana is doing well as far as quality is also concerned. The quality, as I said, didn't happen by chance. It happened through the provision of a number of things, especially the provision of core textbooks that we decided to give. Government spent a lot of money in doing so. Intervention of grants to schools, core subject teachers training, because the first time we decided to train our core subject teachers. Again, provision of bursaries to girls and remedial packages delivered to students, and also the provision of the past questions, which a lot of people criticize. But we felt that, be that as it may, the usage of past questions in our various senior high schools are things that you just cannot say that it's not happening, or people are not using it. I, for example, used past questions when I was writing my WASI. I know you also used it when you're writing your WASI or SSC, but the gap or the unfairness or the injustice that it brings, because rich people are able to get for their kids, poor parents are unable to get for their kids. When it happens like that, it brings some amount of unfairness. So government believe that since it is an essential part of the writing of our WASI, government should be able to spend enough money to be able to do so. Now, we also numbered the achievement that we made so far with respect to the education sector from 2017-2020. Remember at the time from 2017 to 2020, Dr. Adichim himself was a deputy minister. He was deputizing Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh. And so, apart from the implementation of the free SHS, quite a number of things. For example, the introduction of a 4-year Bachelor of Education program at the College of Education, because there have always been a disconnect between what is learned at our various training colleges and what is taught at the basic level. You cannot learn A and teach B. Put differently, learning A in the training colleges and teaching B at the basic level was something that we realized was not helping our education system. And so there was a need to review the curriculum at the teacher training level and also review the curriculum at the basic level, so that students at the basic level will now be concentrating on critical thinking, problem solving, and what have you. So the review at the teacher training level made it possible for us to now have a bachelor degree program at the training colleges. And so for now, you don't go to our training colleges and be awarded a diploma after a 4-year program, but now you'll be awarded a degree. This is also going to limit teacher time on task issues that we've been having. It's going to limit absenteeism, because most of our teachers were also having the edge to be able to have upgrade from their diploma to degree, and sometimes even masters, because they'll have to stay out of school to be able to have those programs and what have you.
So, Mr. Asefua, in a nutshell, yes, a lot of positives to take away from yesterday's engagement with the press, so to speak. And of course, we'll have to break them down. So pardon the interruption. I'll come back right to you, but let me also acknowledge the presence of Peter Anti, Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. Mr. Anti, thank you for joining the conversation. Good morning. Can you unmute for us, please?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Great, I can hear you. Thank you for joining the conversation. I mean, there's a lot we're going to be discoursing on, but thank you for joining. I just wanted to acknowledge your presence with us. Let me just do this right before I come to you, Mr. Anti. Mr. Asifua, now you've spoken about free SHS. In fact, you spent a lot of the last few minutes touching on it. I just want to find out from you, what has been the impact, and this is addressed to Mr. Asifua, what has been the impact of free SHS in your constituency? What are the real gains that you can talk about as far as, you know, your tenure is concerned? Do we have Mr. Asifua on the line?
Come again?
So just before I go to Mr. Anti, I was just trying to find out from you. You started talking a lot about free SHS, among other things, but I just wanted to narrow it down briefly before I go to Mr. Anti. Free SHS, you know, over these last few months that you've been Member of Parliament, almost 6 months, what has been the real impact in your community that you can share?
Well, the real impact can be measured through improved learning outcomes. How learning outcomes as compared to previously has been enormous in terms of its success. Now, I will say this. If you check the West African Examination Council website, the good people of Old Tafo constituency were part of the people that in 2014, 2016, we never had the opportunity to have about 50% of the population who wrote West African examination crossing the threshold of 50%. Put differently, there has not been an instance from 2014 to 2018 whereby my people or the people of Old Tafo constituency, which is part of the larger population, was able to get 50% of that population getting A1 to C6 in mathematics. In 2019-2020, the same West African Examination Council website will suggest to you that for the first time, we had a good number of the population, which Old Tafo constituency students are also part of it, having 65% of them passing A1 to C6 as far as mathematics is concerned. This is a better learning outcome as compared to previously. And this is because of the implementation of the free SHS and not leaving out quality. I've already indicated to you that quality does not happen by chance. Quality happens by the provision of essential things that allows the education to be successful that we, the way we want it, i.e. provision of core textbooks, intervention grounds to schools and what have you. Now again, if you check the same website for West African Examination Council, you realize that the same period, 2014 to 2018, it is only in 2018 that we had, for the first time, our students getting 51%. But before 2018, there has never been an instance whereby those who wrote West African Examination Council, that is the WASI, and had A1 to C6 in integrated science, was able to cross even 44%. But in 2019 and 2020, you can have figures like 63% of the students or the population who wrote West African Examination Council having 63% and 52.53% respectively. I will conclude with this. Check English language 2, the same website. It is only in 2016 or 2017 also that we have 53 and 54% respectively. A1 to C6 in 2019-2020 was 49% and 57.34%, a record percentage figure ever since we took over office in 2017.
So real tangible benefits in your constituency, basically.
Absolutely. I mean, the population that we have, or the people who wrote the West African Examination Council, also includes people from Old Tafo, especially in the senior high schools that we have here, Osei Senior High School, Osmania Senior High School, Al Zawiya Senior High School, and they were part of the population, and you could see that this time when most of the students were able to do it. That is the only way that you can assess that there is, or there was, a proper intervention in the senior high schools we did not only deal with access, but we also dealt with quality as well, so that we would be able to ensure that we get the desired results that we so much desire in our senior high schools.
Let me now turn my gaze to Peter Anti, who is Executive Director, Institute for Education Studies. And three things that we can at least take away from what Mr. Educhum said yesterday has to do with improving on quality, access, and relevance, which the Member of Parliament for Tafo has been speaking about as well. If you had to pick out your key highlights in just about a minute from yesterday's event, bordering on these three matters, what would they be?
Good morning. I didn't hear the first part of the question.
So yesterday, three things that Mr. Educhum, Dr. Educhum, I should say, highlighted: access, relevance, and quality of education, and how to get about that in our entire educational setup to improve on these three yardsticks or measuring rods, if you like. Now, from all that he made mention of, from free SHS to exams for pupils in class 4 and all of that, what would be your key highlights, your key takeaways in just about a minute?
All right, so I think that we will have to look at the national assessment which they are about to do for Basics 4. That is something that we will have to subject it to a lot of analysis, because there are issues pertaining to that. We also have to look at the issue of the debate about the performance of the students at the last SSC and WASI, and the attribution to free SHS. I just wanted to remind my brother Echo said that he forgot to also add social studies, because it's like the performance of social studies for that year dropped from, I think, 73% or so. So when you are talking about
if I'm allowed, I can do that analysis for you as well.
Please hold for me for now, Mr. Sifwa. Please hold on for me.
I was just reminding you.
Because in 2019 it was 75%. It just dropped from 75 to 64%. That is even higher than the 2016.
Yes, no, but
so Mr. Sifwa, if you can,
I'm just saying that when you are doing some of this analysis, you just have to include all of that.
No, I didn't have time to do
we see the total picture.
But the point I'm making is that even the 2020
that is
all right, gentlemen. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Let's do this. Let's have one person speak at a time. Let's have one person have a bite. Mr. Sifwa, if you have any reactions,
Honorable MP,
Mr. Sifwa,
I understand.
If you have any reactions, you can just hold on to them, and when you have your turn to speak, you can chip that in. Is that okay, sir? All right. I believe we have an agreement. So, Mr. Anti, you were making a point.
Yeah. So for us, hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So for us, we still want to push the quality debate further.
Okay.
We still think that we will need to do a scientific analysis of what really happened. That's resulted in the kind of, we are not downplaying the role played by anybody at all. No, not that. But I think that if we are so much interested in education, then we should also be so much interested in the data and the science, as they used to say it with the COVID issue, so that we'll be able to ascertain what are the factors contributing to the performance of the students. And anybody in that space will tell you that you cannot pinpoint 1, 2, 3 factors to say that these are the reasons why a student passed this, show this kind of performance. And we also want to even extend the debate further to not only limit ourselves to outcomes, to student performance, which we know in academic sense are just outputs. We want to see what is the level of contribution these students will be able to have on the broader economy, and that will depend on the kind of curriculum that they have been introduced to and the pathway that they need to assess going forward. So we also want to focus on that. Then we also want to state that in spite of the fact that we are doing a lot of infrastructure works, there are a lot of infrastructure works that also needs to be carried out, and that would be brought up when NASIA, the School Inspectorate Authority, begins to do their work fully, because some of these schools under tree that we keep talking about.
Well, unfortunately, the connection with
if they are reported and they are walked through.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, some of these schools and the trees and lack of infrastructure that we talk about, if they are reported and they are walked through the reporting chain, they will get to the officials for them to also work on it. So it will be the work of the school inspectors when they kickstart their work fully to now bring to the attention of authorities these infrastructure challenges that persist in our schools. And interestingly, if you look at ME's data, the data from the Ministry of Education, it gives you indication of the number of schools that needs moderate repairs, the number of schools that need complete repairs, and the number of schools that need touch here, touch there. So these are information that are available to the ministry, and we think that they should be able to work on it and improve on the infrastructure as we go ahead. So these will be my 3 things that I will just touch.
Right. The education minister did acknowledge that a lot has to be done as far as infrastructure is concerned. He spoke about those community schools to be built, which would, of course, have a different setup, a more improved setup. But of course, he did acknowledge that there was a lot still to be done in that respect. But let's talk money matters as we move on from here. So far, we've spent some 7.7 billion Ghana cedis on the back of rolling out free SHS. This year alone, we spent upwards of 1.9 billion Ghana cedis. Again, we've been told by the Deputy Finance Minister Designate, Abna Osei-Asare, that, well, they would be looking to borrow more to fund free SHS. When you look at the progress we have made so far, do you find any surprises in there in terms of how much we've been spending?
From our perspective, we think that no amount is too much for an investment in education. And we put it this way. If you have a land, then you want to grow something like cocoa, you will need to invest a lot of money in it. Those in cocoa farming knows the number of years that it will take for you to now harvest the cocoa. That's an investment into your cocoa farm. That is the same thing that you do. That is the same thing that you do when you are investing in education. The difference here is that in education, when you are doing these kinds of investments, you do not get a readily kind of returns. And that is why sometimes people find it difficult to associate the investment you are doing in education to a specific returns. So we are not worried about the number of money or amount of money that is pushed into the education sector. We are worried rather about where the money is coming from and whether that money is sustainable. And that is why from day one, we have said, and we will keep pushing, that if you want to really sustain this particular policy, you might want to spend almost like 10 billion, like we spent 7.7 billion. But out of that amount of money that you have spent, 50% is coming from the oil resources. And we have said that that is not a source that you can rely on. You look at the nature of the oil market, and you can say that at a point in time, that particular resource will not be there for you to finance your free SHS policy. When that time comes, where are you going to get the money to finance the policy, which is so important and which has the potential to transform the economy of this country? So you need to start having that kind of sustainability debate. You need to start talking about how do we finance this policy beyond this kind of resource that we have at our disposal. And this is the conversation that we will need to have, whether the authorities like it or not, because we cannot continue finance free SHS from a finance resource if we really want to sustain the policy. And unfortunately, if you push some of this discussion, it is tend to make you look as if you are against the policy. But that is not the case. We will need to have that kind of discussion and find ways and means to improve on the sustainability part of the financing policy that we are looking at. And a lot of recommendations have been made, given to the requisite authorities, and they are not acting on it because for me personally, I think that free SHS is a political decision more than an economic decision. So when you put the economists on the spot, they will tell you that they need to look at a financing model for the policy. If you put the politician there, he will tell you that, look, we can still finance this and we will have to find ways to finance it.
Okay, so there are all sorts of levies that we have to pay now for different reasons, even on the back of COVID-19. The matter of taxation to support free SHS has also been mooted from time to time. From the standpoint of the IES, you are saying the source of financing ought to be looked at. What would be your proposal to the education ministry, the education sector, in terms of the sustainability of free SHS? How do we sustain the financing?
Yeah, so the Institute for Education said this, IFEST. It's not IES, IFEST. We have said that you have to look at how the model of financing that you are employing, and that is a wholesale financing model. A wholesale financing model means that you don't care whether somebody is paying or not. But if you look across education financing literature, it tells you that any model of financing that ignores ability to pay is not a model of financing worth pursuing. So we have to look at the ability to pay, and if you are looking at ability to pay, then you are looking at targeting, and that is what we have said a lot of.
Well, Peter Anti there explaining to us what IFEST would be proposing when it comes to financing or bankrolling free SHS. Of course, the connection always a problem. Mr. Anti, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so you have to have an index that will help you categorize your students into three groups of people: those who can pay partially, and those who cannot pay at all. We've put a paper out to that effect, and if the authorities care to know, they can go through it and then invite for any clarification for us to do that. Apart from that, we have also talked about the 80-20 day boarding policy. We note that when you really want to reduce the burden of financing of the policy, you have to target the day students more than those who go to the boarding house. And that one is about reducing the number of people who go to the boarding houses to about 20%. Because if you look at the fee structure, which was released recently, you see that the boarder is supposed to pay around 2,000 and over, whilst the day student hovers around 700 to 1,000. So it means that the amount you use to pay one boarder can be used to pay for 2 day students or 3 day students, and that is a way that you might want to reduce the burden on yourself. But the more important thing you have also to look at is that you look at an important policy like the National Health Insurance Scheme. We needed to make sure it is sustainable, so we created a stream of financing the policy, and that is the National Health Insurance Levy. And even with that kind of a consistent source of income, we can attest to the state of the insurance scheme. So you might also want to think about coming out with a levy that will help support the financing of the policy. That is something that we'll have to bring on board, and a consultative forum would discuss that. But we need whatever decision that we will have to take to make sure that there is a constant stream of income and not based on the commitment of a politician. That is what we need to do. And we need a system to make sure that the free SHS is sustained, and not because it is a commitment of a politician, and the politician will see to it that that particular policy will continue. It means that when that politician is not there, we will not be able to push this policy forward. But that is a policy that we need to sustain it, and that is why we need to have this kind of hard discussion very soon.
Okay. Do we still have Mr. Asifo with us? Mr. Asifo, are you still with us? Okay, so it appears we may not have the Member of Parliament for Tafo.
Yes,
Mr. Asifo, are you here with us? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, great. So I just had to be sure. Now, we've discussed on a lot. If you have any reactions to what Mr. Anti has been saying thus far, you can chip in briefly. But what I want to tease your brains on right now has to do with the double track system. The initial projection was 7 years. And of course, now we are hearing that in a matter of about 2 years, we're going to phase out the double track system. We've moved back and forth on this. There were promises about getting out of the double track system, but we are back with it, with all the other problems that have accompanied it. What do you feel is the feasibility of achieving this within the next 2 years, practically?
Well, let me start by curing the mischief of my brother Peter Anti. You know, in my earlier submission, I made mention of the fact that assessing the learning outcomes could be gleaned from the West African Examination Council's website with respect to the analysis made from the Ghana Education Service in terms of the outcomes with respect to mathematics, integrated science, English. He didn't even wait for me to conclude with the social studies. Indeed, he talked about a drop of the social studies from 2019 to 2020. That is from 75% to 64.31%. Now, clearly, even the drop in 2020 of the 64.31% is far, far, far better than the 2016 figure. It is far, far, far better than the 2015 and the 2014 figure, respectively, because in 2016, before we took over the reins of government, when you check the social studies, and the number of people who wrote social studies was about 55%. In 2020, it is 64.31%. Agreed that indeed is a drop from 75% in 2019, but that is even better. Now, if you also look at the argument about the double track as to why all of a sudden we are going to complete, or if we like, we are going to allow the double track to cease in 2 or 3 years. We have already indicated that the government did something that we call needs assessment in most of our various senior high schools. And the needs assessment was supposed to give the government an idea through the Get Fund securitization that we secured in Parliament, about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis that we needed to use for the infrastructure expansion, because the double track was all about infrastructure. We believed that we cannot leave any student behind by reason that we do not have spaces, or we do not have available spaces for these children. Because the 1992 Constitution, Chapter 6, the Directive Principles of State Policy, clearly indicates that it is the duty of the government to ensure that there is access to every child, every Tomite can have who completes BECE. And so, if it is the government's responsibility in doing so, that is why we decided that we will expand infrastructure. Now, something like 3-unit classroom blocks that have been built in our various senior high schools, we have over 60 of them. 6-unit classroom block, we have about 171 of them. 12-unit classroom block, we have 152 of them, which I know when you come to my constituency, Old Trafford constituency, Osei Senior High School has benefited from 6-unit classroom block, has benefited from 12-unit classroom blocks in Osei Senior High School. So clearly, the job that we needed to do to ensure that we eliminate the double track has been done, which I'm so sure that within some few years, 2-3 years, we will be able to eliminate the double track. Issues of funding. Every year, if you look at the amount of money that we spend as a nation, I've always been making this argument that in the 60s, the 70s, thereabout, the developmental acumen of Ghana, one way or the other, if it was not even at par with some of the Asian tigers like Malaysians, the Taiwans, and what have you, at least we are even better. We could stimulate better developmental acumen, or if you like, better developmental stories more than some of these Asian tigers. What happened? That all of a sudden, these Asian tigers are doing better, they are doing marvelously well as compared to Ghana. It is because there was a deliberate attempt by these countries to ensure that they would develop human capital. Ghana, as a nation, cannot say that because we are spending about 7.7 billion, and that is even a figure from 2017 to 2021, 7.7 billion to develop the human capital of this nation. It is out of place. Because in 2021, the education sector budget alone was over 15 billion. And what it means is that for 4 years, the 7.7 billion that we've spent is woefully inadequate as compared to the total national budget that we spend every year. Because education alone is 15 billion. What it means is that the total budget that we are spending as a nation was over 70 billion. So if you use just about 20 or 15 or even 10% of the total budget of a nation to develop human capital, to develop people, to develop young men and young women, so that we'll be able to stimulate the better developmental stories that we've been seeing in some of our Asian tigers, then it is not out of place to spend that amount of money. Sustainability.
Okay. And let's wrap up on that point.
It is a political decision, a political will that will ensure that indeed the state will use its resources to be able to fund free SHS. So I am most of the time not interested in where the money comes from. I am interested in the fact that the commitment is unwavering, the commitment is 100%. Wherever the money comes from, it is a decision by the current government that we will use these monies to be able to develop the human capacity of our young men and young women in this country.
Okay. Now talking about the adequacy of the education that we're getting, Mr. Anti, there also has been this talk about a national standardized test for pupils in class 4, so that you don't have to wait the entire span of 11 years before you are tested at the basic level. How much of an improvement do you feel this would bring to bear when it comes to the achievement of learning outcomes, when it comes to the practical knowledge that these pupils acquire as they head into secondary school?
Statements. We cannot bench the sustainability of a policy on the commitment of any politician. We cannot do that. And therefore, we should have a roadmap up to how best we'll be able to sustain this policy beyond a particular politician or a political party. This is a national discussion we need to have. It is free SHS should not be about a political party or a political decision. And anytime you look at it from that perspective, you are looking at it from a perspective whereby it will be we against them. It should be us pushing this policy to reach the goal that we all want. Then let me come back to the national
standardized
assessment.
Testing.
That it's a fantastic idea. And when the National Assessment Framework was rolled out, some of us had the opportunity to talk about it. And we thought that, look, this is an important thing that we have missed a long while, and it is good that it's coming. That we're going to have students assessed at different levels to make sure that they meet the set standards that the system has set for them. So ideally, it was supposed to be basic 2, basic 4, basic 6, because they have gone through the standard curriculum. But unfortunately, because of COVID and other issues, we are not able to do that. But we are now doing for basic 4, which is good. It's going to give us a lot of information on how our students are faring at the very basic level, to the district level, to the regional level, to the national level. It gives information to the teachers, it gives information to parents, it gives information to school authorities, and then the policymakers. And then we'll know where to introduce intervention and where not to introduce intervention, where to applaud the teacher and where to make sure we assist the teacher. So this is a very important thing that we need to get right. But we have some few issues that we would want to draw the attention of the authorities to. One, we have to understand that the system, how the system is going to be implemented. Because the first question is it going to be conducted by WAEC or it's going to be under NACA? Because we know NACA is for curriculum and assessment, and over the years they have been doing some of these regional tests and other things to know how the curriculum is faring. So are we going to put it under NACA, or is going to be carried by WAEC? And if it's going to be carried by WAEC, can't we let NACA do it to ensure that we build their capacity and ensure that they are also having some of these things to handle going forward? That is something, because WAEC has got a lot of challenges and we are yet to even address them. So if you are pushing this to WAEC, you need to have a discussion on that. Apart from that, we also have to understand how the test is going to be carried out in terms of the school structure. Is it going to be like BECE, that every student move to a particular center and then they do the test, or is going to be a school-based assessment? If it's a school-based assessment, does it mean that the teachers in the school are those who are going to be invigilators, and would the teachers in the school be the examiners? I mean, those who are going to mark the scripts. If that is the case, then we have a big challenge, because I foresee situations whereby teachers would find ways and means to make sure their students perform well. So these modalities need to be cleared. The last issue that we will have to avert our minds to is those in class 4 now, and I've made this point over a period of time, those in class 4 now, because of COVID, were not able to go through the standard curriculum for basic 3. And when you say this, they tell you that, okay, we ask them to go to class 4 so that they will complete. Fine. It means that they have completed basic 3, but they are yet to complete basic 4. Now, a standard assessment is supposed to go with a set standard performance criteria, which is supposed to be linked to basic 4. So if they are going to be assessed on the standards for basic 4, then we would want to draw the attention of the authorities to the fact that the standards for basic 4 are not yet met because they have not been able to complete the curriculum for basic 4. What they did was to ask them to move from class 3 to class 4, and then they will continue whatever they were supposed to do in class 3 in class 4. So at best, they can be assessed on the standards of Basic 3 and not on the standards of Basic 4. These are issues that we will need clarity on, and if it is cleared, we are good to go. We will have to support this thing because we need these assessments to monitor the progress of learning of our students as we go forward.
Now, staying on that beat in terms of not just quality, but relevance as well. No country develops without the backbone of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it's something that the Education Minister made mention of yesterday, talking about 10 community schools to be fitted with laboratory and other equipment by the close of next year. He made the analogy, he drew the analogy of, between Ghana and Vietnam, where you have that country with about twice our population, yet producing about 100,000 engineers yearly, while here in Ghana, we produce just above some 6,000 engineers. So relevance, yes, but in terms of the framework, starting from this point of 10 STEM schools, do you feel that is going to suffice to give us the sort of boost when it comes to numbers of engineers, those in the sciences that we need? Peter?
Yes, I think that there's a lot of commitment to improve the science technology front in our country. And one of these commitments is what they announced yesterday to create these STEM centers that would support and help train those who are interested in the science and then the technology and other things, mathematics and other things. And I think that is a good policy that they would want to embark on. They are setting up new schools, and he calls it a model school, and we would want to see how it pans out. It means that they're going to have a very big school with all the needed infrastructure, and that will help train the number of scientists that we would want to have. So we don't practically have any issue with that. It's a policy that has been communicated. They started the building of the schools. He says that it will start running next year. We would want to see how this goes, because we believe that as a country, we are lagging behind in terms of our training and commitment to the sciences. And if you go to most of our secondary schools, their science laboratories are nothing to write home about. So if this is a way that will be able to ensure that we train more scientists to spear the scientific community that we want to build, I think that is the way to go. But that shouldn't end there. I think that they should also target tertiary institutions like Tech and University of Cape Coast and Legon, where they run some of these science courses at a higher level, and give them these modern kinds of infrastructure, so that at that level, those who are going through their science courses would still have the requisite training and equipment to learn. So that is a good policy from them. We want to see how its implementation goes and how it's going to end in that perspective. Okay, so as we gear up, as we wrap the conversation, let me come to Mr. Asifua. So on the STEM schools bit, I just want your quick take on that. What are your expectations? Are you looking forward to getting any in your community? And your wrap-up comments.
Well, I think that the STEM schools have already been documented to the extent that we have 10 of them that are supposed to be established. So obviously, we are not going to get one in my constituency. But yes, in Ashanti region, we are going to have one in Kwadaso. And currently, if you check the extent of the progress of work with respect to Abomosu in the eastern region, clearly, the Abomosu STEM Senior High School, as we speak, and if you go to the grounds, you find out that we're done with the boys and the girls dormitories, we are done with the library block, we are done with the principal's residence, we are done with the vice principal's residence, we are done the SIGB administration block, assembly hall, dining hall, and what have you. And so clearly, the government's commitment with respect to science, technology, engineering, mathematics is something that has been on the table of the government, and we are sure that within the next few months, and hopefully by next year, next academic year, we should be able to start these schools. This also goes to corroborate the government's belief that we need to stimulate better developmental stories, and the kind of education system that we've had in this country has always been largely humanities, or if like grammar kind of education. For that matter, there should be a total deviation from what has always been the norm, whereby our students will now be prepared for the fourth industrial revolution, whereby artificial intelligence will be at the core of our education system, robotics will be at the core of our education system, Internet of Things, that is the IoT, will also be at the core of our education system, 3D printing and what have you. I remember the review of the curriculum at the basic level, which we are also going to continue at the junior high school with a common core program, was to bridge the gap as to what is actually taught in our various schools and what is also demanded in the world of work. The world of work, if you see what businesses and owners of businesses, so it's like employers have always been demanding from our students, clearly, is that students who complete university or polytechnic will go to a world of work, and whatever the particular child or the particular student actually learned in school, it's not what will be needed at the world of work. That student will have to go through a new form of training or a new form of rebranding to be able to fit in the world of work. And so the disconnect between what is taught in our various schools and what is needed in our world of work has always been a problem, and that is what's informing the education sector plan from 2018 to 2030 to be able to ensure that at every level, i.e. that is P4, when we are done with the assessment, it will give a reporting platform whereby we'll be able to know the kind of intervention that we have to give to these students after the national standard test. And that is supposed to ensure or give information to the Ministry of Education or the Ghana Education Service what has been the difficulties of our children. And so over the years, we've been engaging with EGMA, that is the early grade mathematics assessment. We've been engaged with EGRA, the early grade reading assessment. We've been engaged with PISA, and all these were a kind of assessment. And of course, the National Education Assessment, that is the NEA, it has always been giving government an informed platform as to what we've been doing or how well we've been doing as far as the basic education is concerned. And so the National Standards Test is also going to give government an informed decision as far as reporting is concerned, so as to give the proper interventions going forward to be able to ensure that we have proper learning outcomes.
Well, this is a conversation that continues. Of course, we can't digest all of the issues just within this conversation, but we are very grateful that you've joined us. Member of Parliament for Tafude Eko Asifwa, he is also on the Education Committee of Parliament. We also have Peter Anti, Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Of course, you can also join us wherever you are on social media and share your thoughts on some of these matters as per the Education Minister. But when we return on the AM show, we cross over to Nigeria, where indeed since Friday there has been that ban on using Twitter. The telecommunication industry has complied based on Nigerian law. But what is the real feel on the ground? We get into that when we return. And as we welcome you back on the AM show, we cross over to Nigeria, where we have Victor Matthias, a tech journalist with Channels TV, who joins us as we talk about this bit of a surprise when it comes to a Twitter ban in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Matthias, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Nigeria.
It's a pleasure.
Great. So we know that it was on the back of a tweet by President Buhari, which was taken down because it appeared to target a secessionist group in the southern belt of Nigeria. And then we heard from the Information Ministry with regard to how Twitter had allowed misinformation, fake news, and others on its platform. What has been the real, feeling, sentiment of people in Nigeria on the back of this Twitter ban?
Well, the sentiment and the feeling hasn't really been good. I mean, a lot of people have been complaining because they feel, and not justifiably so, that their means of livelihood has been cut off via the Twitter ban. So the general feeling hasn't really been good. Even the international community has been weighing in on the matter. The US, the EU, the UK, Canada, Ireland, Norway, a couple of international communities and other countries, have also been talking about it, and they feel that it is a violation of the rights to freedom of speech and expression, and also a right of people to impart and also to get and access information via Twitter.
Now, one of the things that has been cited by those same countries, organizations that you have mentioned, is that this is going to limit free speech. Over the course of the last few days, would you say that has been felt a limiting factor? Of course, there are other social media platforms on which people can interact. Has the ban on Twitter really limited free speech?
Well, you need to look at it from a perspective of how it does so. So a lot of people have actually been using Twitter to voice their concerns and also to hold the government to account. But if you cut them off via a medium that they feel is very effective, very fast, they would have that feeling that their speech has been limited. Of course, like you said, there are other platforms where people can actually voice their discontent against policies of the government. But in recent time, we all know that people actually dwell more on Twitter. Facebook is there as well. You have YouTube, you have Instagram. But most of the times, all of these platforms usually link or share their links on Twitter, which gives it a lot more visibility and also a far and wider reach. That's why you have this concern been raised. But the thing is, not only speech has been limited, information has also been limited. It would interest you to know that the NCDC, that's the National Center for Disease Control, has not really released results of COVID tests, number of cases recorded, or number of deaths, since the ban, because all government agencies are no longer tweeting. Even the president's handle hasn't tweeted. His aides have not also. This is a medium that has not only provided an avenue for people to speak, but it is an avenue, like I said earlier, where you can actually access information. So information from all of these platforms has actually not been out there. This morning, I actually checked the Instagram page of the NCDC, and the last time they posted was May 28th. So if you look at it, there's not only a limitation of speech, but also there is a limitation of access to information.
And so in other words, it's not just the people, even the free flow of information has been affected. But on the back of this, there was talk about prosecuting any people who would be found culpable. There was talk of some people who had circumvented the process and were still tweeting, and that they would face, the music. Has any of that happened? Is any prosecution in the offing?
Well, for now, no. The attention of the Director of Media to the Attorney General of the Federation was called, to a fact that a few people, even people in government, have used the platform after the ban.
So we're still talking about the case in Nigeria of Twitter being blocked. And, well, ordinary Nigerians not being able to access that application. We've been interacting with Victor Matthias, who is a tech journalist. Victor, you can go ahead.
He was asked if he would.
Victor, if you can hear me, could you repeat that point you were making? Who was asked if he could do what? So we'll try and rectify the connection. Just about a few more matters to wrap up on. So Victor.
Indeed.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying, the prosecution hasn't started yet. I was talking about how the media aid to the Attorney General was being shown a post where some government officials have used the platform after the suspension had taken place. But he is saying that they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Well, I don't know how much doubt he is in if he has tweets already that it's actually out there. Showing that these government officials have actually used the platform. So we have to wait and see in the coming days if indeed the prosecution of people who have circumvented the space, to use the platform will go on.
So finally, Victor, on the legal front, I do know that Alton, the mobile communications group, has stated categorically that it backs the UM's call that online and offline, capacities of people to post on social media, share their thoughts, should not be curtailed. But they have also said that for national interest provisions, they are going to comply. And in fact, they have complied. Are there any legal challenges in there? Is there any citizen? Are there any groups planning on taking on the administration as far as the legal aspect is concerned in Nigeria?
Absolutely, Benjamin. So a barrage of organizations led by the Nigerian Bar Association. That's the the body of lawyers in Nigeria. Have also so you have the NBA, you have SERAP, you have quite a number of people who have come out to say they have given the government a particular a number of hours, as an ultimatum to rescind the decision. If not, they would meet in court. So yes, there is a threat of legal fireworks against the government, and we are waiting, of course, to see how all of that will play out in the courts. And one thing that is also worthy to note is the fact that the judiciary at the moment is actually on strike. They are having they are having conversations with the government, around some things that they feel have not been, put in place for the judiciary to properly work. So until that situation is sorted out, well, that legal fireworks just may not happen soon.
Victor Matthias, all the way from Nigeria. He's a tech journalist with Channels TV. Thank you so much, Victor, for engaging us. But from the Twitter ban in Nigeria, we talk about, well, something very pertinent right here in Ghana. It has to do with a hike in transport fares, about a 13% increment, and passengers have been worried about this bit. We get live into, the lives of some people who have boarded vehicles today. What are the challenges? What are the increments? How are they coping with it? Manuel Coranting is my colleague on that beat. Manuel, if you can hear me, so which trotro are you in? Where are you headed now? And what is the mood so far when it comes to the increment in transport fares?
Well, Ben, you're right. I'm currently in an Odoko-bound trotro from Circle. Before now, the fare cost about 2 cedis, 50 pesos from Kwame Nkrumah Circle to Odoko. Well, this morning, that's a different picture. It's costing 2 cedis, 80 pesos. That's a 30 pesos increment from the old price that they used to pay. And that culminating to what you call a 13% increment announced by the transport operators. I've seen the general compliance in the car, perhaps because of what you call a proof of the newly agreed fares, and that's what you're seeing in your shot currently. It is hanging in almost every trotro that I have seen this morning, just to do away with what you call argument and fisticuffs within the vehicle. But as we're doing this, let me just try and speak to the mate and ask what the mood has been so far since they began charging the new fares. Papa mate, morning, bibi aboko. Na on shall max ni kakrai. Aha. Na dabe na mo strategy first. Saturday. Na mo strategy and obi atua, obi a comply.
Yeah, obi ankasa.
Obi ankasa.
No.
Chese obi ani age.
Obi atase.
Obi ani age. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
And then some go for no mutua, no motor card. Man, say madam. Adia, you are happy paying what 30 pesos more for the same distance, correct?
Yes, because I have no choice, and that's the fare they are collecting, so I have to pay.
You have no choice. And Ben, this is the bustling the hustling and bustling in the Ghanaian church. You'd have to get down, get somebody to drop. This is not your typical Uber or your Bolt, or as for you who drives wherever you go. Well, we don't drive. We sit in a church and we have to drop for other people to drop and then join again. But Ajay, you're telling me that you have no other option than to pay. But I mean, when you look at how much you're earning and then you look at how much you're having to pay for the same distance, I mean, as a citizen, as somebody who bought the transport vehicles, how does that make you feel?
I'm not happy because your salary is still the same, but you have to pay more than what you have been paying for transport. And they are not at fault.
Pesos in a day,
yeah.
If you go and then you come back.
Yeah.
What does that mean for instance, a week? In a week, 60 pesos times 5, that's what, 3 cedis. In a month, you are doing 12 cedis. That and it keeps going up.
But it doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
And Benjamin, it doesn't affect the students because the students does not earn money. The students' mother earns the money. Let me talk to you about the Biaboko. I say, Casano, I say, 1 person over can be. Now, oh, the church first now, Utiano, when you're on.
Meninja, because me free Jolu Naba, 50 Jolu circle 280, 50 can circle basic and 250. To him say, Hammy, I was so can say, and Toshi, to the other free fee, but nobody did not sacrifice. To Lord friend, they hire pa.
The other Sika will be fear ban over the answer.
The answer wa kofie.
Lord friend didn't.
Oh, Lord friend didn't na. 50 Jolu ba wa calculate showing out.
And they be over.
10 cedis
10 cedis every day.
10 cedis. The service so can touch wait to me grab a bobo or class out kofie.
Ben is telling me that he's coming all the way from Jolu and he has to do like a transit, drop from one vehicle and join another. And we're at that point again, we'll have to drop for people to get down from the vehicle. But just to explain to you what the gentleman over there was telling me, he was talking to me about how, a day's fares could cost as much as 10 Ghana cedis just from Jolu to his base at Abosukan, where he actually works. Let me talk to some more students. He goes to the Accra Academy. The Kateko boy says that he's not affected because there's 30 pesos, there's 60 pesos in a day. What about you? Are you affected?
Yes, I'm affected.
How is that?
Because when I come, they give me only 10 cedis.
They give you 10 cedis?
I start at Big Farm. I have to pay 2 cedis, 50 pesos, then come to Circle, then come and pick another car. If my chop money is even part.
Your chop money is also part? So after paying everything, what are you left with?
Left with 4 cedi, 20 pesos.
4 cedis, 20 pesos. You're a day student, so you don't go for dining, do you?
I don't go for dining.
Okay. So you have to live on 4 cedis every day?
Yes. If I'm coming to pick another car.
And that's a picture of the Accra Academy students telling me that he's been giving 10 cedis, and that's what he's been given every day. And he lives at Pig Farm. The amount of money he spends in a day will leave him just about 4 cedis for chop money. And when in Ghana, and Ben, you know what 4 cedis can do. You have to stick to a regular gobe and plantain to be able to survive on 4 cedis. But let me talk to this lady here, Mama Biaboko. I saw Siganumono. I don't know, I saw Siganumosa.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, Ufi never.
I'm in Newtown.
Ufi Newtown. Until Oba and Oma increase the price.
Me Juma, Ewo Kokonte.
I don't make increase the price.
Say Lord Fanny dear, and why you think, and why you think, cause who cook one tongue, dear, I would drink Lord Fanny. They say me call back Lampa, they say first, let easy. They say, almost had to Lord Fanny, me try to say la BCD. In that aunt, in Tanwayati.
It's a man or tongue there now.
Oh, 2 days to cry. One, and I make 1 tongue, dear, Kana would do with Lord Fair with the best now, if you're near they say marketing. Who sounds so one palace who fear would do who bump a say the Lord Fair, dear, and Riot. The Koran so far into Oma Mosica. Palani, dear. omo ko school omo baby amete but omo makwanya me no omo na ekọ ejuma omo su dia metu omo lord first about so ankọ peni no Monday every Monday bia onkọ ejuma nti ya me ne na eba ejumi mo no so say ono wafa la pass kwan nti ono se me man lord fenti me fa ne say me ne nya say 22
cities and up
with 22 because my man lord fenti so mafo yes sampa so ya besan afo.
And so Ben, she's explaining to me that they have to bear a double cost of about 22 cities, 11 cities per head for herself and her child, because on Mondays her child doesn't go to work. Well, this is the regular picture that you have on the rush hour Monday morning when people are moving to and fro various destinations, trying to make ends meet on the very hot streets in Accra. But now there's more to think about, not just how you're going to make ends meet, but also how much you're going to pay as transport fares. And you've been hearing them tell me about how this is affecting their disposable income and everything that you want to think about. Well, I've joined the trot this morning to have a feel of it. Maybe, Ben, you should join it one of these days and park your car and then have a feel of it. But generally, it's not amusing, Ben. If you can hear me, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Manuel Karanting. One of these days, I just might. It reminds me of my last interaction with Professor Stephen Ade and what he was saying about how someday he had to park his car and use a trotro. So I just might. But the price increments, the fare increments, are reality, and people sharing their lived experiences and their concerns about that. Maybe you could put that side by side with the recent increment in the minimum wage. But as has been mentioned, it also will only affect those who were earning below the minimum wage in the first place. Manuel Karanting reporting live there. We're taking a breather. When we come back, Horizon Immigrations is in the studio again, and they're going to be sharing a lot of insight about how you can basically transplant your business from right here in Ghana to the UK, what the benefits are for the companies, for the individuals, and more. Do stay. We'll be back after the break. Thank you for staying. Let's talk a bit of business interest now, and even more. Now, have you thought of opening a branch of your company in the UK? Ordinarily, it would sound complicated, but in reality, it could be easy peasy. Let us set you up with our guests as we explore commercial immigration to the UK. Join our conversation with Horizon Immigration. And we have joining the convo Dr. Cosmas Anyakudo, Head West Africa Horizon Immigrations. We also have Raymond Papo, who is the country rep of Horizon Immigrations. Both of them join us this morning for a conversation. Dr. Anyakudo, Mr. Papo, a very good morning to you. Thank you.
Good morning, my brother.
Happy to be here.
So I think to set the tone for the conversation, we'll go back to last Friday, where you actually came through the studio. And I know that on the back of COVID-19 and the ravages to the business community in the world, on the back of Brexit, there's been a lot. Businesses all across the world have taken a big hit. And this is why this is so important. So just walk us through what exactly Horizon Immigration, as an immigration service provider, you are offering in this context from last week's discussion. So we segue into this one. Let's start with you, Dr.
Thank you very much indeed. Horizon Immigrations is an advisory service. We provide services to individuals and companies around the world. And we have offices in London, Manchester, Dubai, Islamabad, Lagos. And we're about to open offices here to sensitize people on the opportunity that businesses have now to establish branches of their companies in the UK. The government of the United Kingdom is seeking to shore up their own export values
And they would need to collaborate with countries and companies around the world to be able to do this. So this is why they have crafted a special immigration package that will benefit Ghanaian companies, and we're here to expose you to that opportunity.
And as we continue to get exposed, Mr. Papo, what would be your takeaways from the last time that we...
Yes, a lot of people that came through, last Friday when we're here, were sole proprietors, and unfortunately we'll have to disappoint them. This program doesn't accommodate sole proprietors. It is for people who are companies. Who are companies, and that is critical. So we really want to mention that. That what they will have to note also, that the benefit to them is enormous. For those who came through, we're not too sure that what we're telling them is really true. It was too good to be true. But once again, we're here to reinforce that it's absolutely true. Once they come through to us, we'll be able to walk them through.
Okay, so we are re-echoing that, and for good reason. But especially as you've spoken about the fact that sole proprietors do not qualify, then one probably might ask, which countries qualify in the first place? Which entities qualify? So let's start with the countries that qualify to partake in this program that you're running. We're talking about businesses moving to the UK.
Sure. Which businesses do qualify? But let's start with the countries. Which countries? I mean, is it any other country that can participate? Absolutely. For us in Ghana, we know that all the countries in the Commonwealth, because Britain would want to once again fall back on its ties with the Commonwealth countries, because he really is living in Europe. He wants to ensure that his business is smooth with his own people. These are people he already had ties with, and we've all been working together all this while. So it will be the first fallback position. Right. So they're looking at all Commonwealth countries.
So it means even Canada would qualify. And
Canada absolutely. Sure.
When you come here to Africa, you would be thinking of the likes of Ghana, the likes of South Africa, the likes of Nigeria. All of these countries would qualify. So that makes for interesting analysis now. Now that we know the scope of this, let's talk about the business scope in terms of the entities that qualify. So sole proprietors know. Which entities qualify then?
Sole proprietors do not qualify, unfortunately. We don't make the rules. We only advise you on the existing rules. And these rules are statutory rules, which means they are part of the law of the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, partnerships do not qualify as well. But what qualifies will be corporations, that is limited liability companies, be they private limited liability companies or public limited liability companies, PLCs. They all qualify. For the kind of business they do, all businesses are welcome. Whether they are making shoes, whether they are making masks, whether they are educational, medical, all businesses qualify. So far they are registered as limited liability corporations. Outside the scope of this also are businesses that are they're not actually businesses. That is charities like churches and those foundations that are set up for not-for-profit purposes, whether it's educational or to help alleviate poverty. They are not qualified, unfortunately. We want business concerns that could make contributory, have contributory effect to the revamping of the UK economy.
So it's purely business interest here? Purely business
interests.
Something just came to mind as you speak of these LLCs, the limited liability companies, whether private or public or whatever they may be. Are there any timelines in terms of maybe how long they would have existed before incorporation? Is there anything to do with you should have been in the system, you should have been active for maybe 5 years or something of the sort? Are there any such restrictions? I'm sure those listening would want to know.
Yes, I think that's a brilliant question. For you to qualify, your company must be in existence for 12 months. So your certificate or your license to do business must say that you have been established for 12 months as at the date of your application going to the British government. So what that means is that if you have a new company or your company is 6 months, we will have to wait for another 6 months for you to meet that criteria.
Interesting. What are the benefits to a company that currently qualifies? What would be the benefits to them? Of course, you're going to transplant your business, sort of. It doesn't mean you're leaving the shores of Ghana, but you would be opening up to a bigger market in the UK. What are the benefits to these LLCs that can participate in the program?
Sure. You know, the UK economy is the 5th largest economy, and it's contributing heavily to the economy of the world entirely. But the current statistics, they've lost up to about in excess of 65% of their business to Europe because they're leaving Brexit. So that should tell you the benefits that are available for, I would speak for Ghanaian businesses, right? Enormous. Everything goes to the UK. So you can't say that the space is too limited. How would I get my niche and all? You need to get in there, and the opportunity is now. So everybody would have a way to benefit from the UK. And we will have synergies. If you're here, you put your business in the UK, you'll have networks, you'll be able to throw in a lot more things than you ordinarily would do in Ghana. So as for benefit you would get, it's enormous.
Enormous.
Enormous. Ghanaians are loads and their numbers in the UK. So you'll be able to establish that network. So your particular products you're offering, whether in manufacturing, whether in services, whether in clothing, textile, what have you.
Whether it's shoes, telecommunications, whatever.
UK hasn't got enough of that, considering the current situation, because a lot of the business is going to be, so to speak, to be lost to Europe. So now the opportunity now is now.
So I guess it brings back the saying, one man's meat is another man's poison, and one man's loss is another man's gain. So,
yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Owing to Brexit, there might be some losses as far as Europe is concerned, but it could be to our benefit for those companies that can take advantage of the situation. But we've spoken of generally the entities, the corporate bodies, what they can get. But how about the individuals involved? Let's say a representative of an LLC here goes to the UK. What are the individual benefits, Doc?
This is amazing. I could speak about this for an hour. I know that we don't have an hour, so I try to be as brief as I can and still try to clarify this to viewers. The representative of a Ghanaian company that sets up a branch or subsidiary in the UK will benefit the following things. And I can count at least 5 that I can reel out quickly. So the first one is that this representative themselves would have the opportunity, of course, to live in the UK for all the, to live in the UK legally. But they would be able to go with their families, and the following benefits will accrue. First of all, the entire family will benefit from a world-class healthcare system. Not to say anything wrong about Ghanaian healthcare, but just to say that I think in that climb there is, augmented health research and facilities that everyone could benefit from. Secondly, the entire family, especially, will be eligible to take on educational pursuits to whatever level they want. And if they have children under 18, all the children study free in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
If they have lived 3 years before going to university, they would also get a grant from the UK government to pursue the university degrees. So
they'll basically be treated in some respect like citizens, because you're talking about NHIS benefits, you're talking about school benefits, exactly. So they're going to be treated kind of like citizens.
They will be treated like citizens. This is where it gets interesting. If you were to represent your company, and besides, let me chip this in, companies can have only one, but media houses can have 3, because they recognize that one person cannot be the producer, the cameraman, and also the anchor.
Right.
So media houses can have 3. But coming back to the benefit to the individuals, if you were to represent a company in the UK, your spouse will get automatic work permit as well. And then the entire family after 5 years will be given indefinite leave to remain and be eligible for British passports.
Okay, I don't know about the rest of you there, but that sounds like a plan. That sounds pretty good. And it's not too good to be true, actually. It is real. Now, if you'd like to get the details of this package, further details about how you can actually do this, move your company to the UK, that is the very next bit I want to ask you, Mr. Papo. So for those who are excited by this, who want to know more, how do they locate you? Where do they find you? How do they access this great opportunity?
Numbers are scrolling on your screen. I suppose they are also watching. So you could pick the numbers and call, and you'll come through to us. Would also be a Menzive Grand Hotel. It's Legon on the main Lagos Avenue. And we'll be receiving as many who really potentially see themselves that they qualify. Now that we have indicated that sole proprietors don't, right? And come through. We'll have a conversation with them and see how we can pre-qualify them. Or if there's some assistance we have to give them to help them position themselves be able to qualify, we'll do that. In fact, we want Ghanaians to take advantage of this. It is too good to be true, but I want to tell them that once in your life, good opportunities come your way, you need to take advantage of them, and the time is now.
The time is now, and don't look any further than Horizon Immigrations. Mr. Papo, country rep for Horizon Immigrations, thank you very much for joining the conversation. Of course, there's also Senior Legal Counsel in charge of West Africa, Dr. Cosmas Anyakudo. Thank you so much for joining the conversation as well.
Thank you for having us here.
Great. All roads lead to Horizon Immigration. But coming up next, we're going to be talking National Science and Math Quiz. Yes, it's still bubbling. St. Peter's Senior High School is the new champion of the Eastern Region ABSA Science and Math Quiz Championship. The Pesco boys, beat competition from Koforidia Secondary Technical School and Emprieso Senior High School to win the regional bragging rights. Here's Maxwell Akbagba with more.
Eastern Region champions, and this is how they are celebrating their victory. They won the Eastern Region ABSA Science and Math Quiz Championship. Let's find out from them what the feeling is like here in their camp.
The feeling is really far beyond this. We are really happy, really excited. And we really thank God for how far He has brought us, for giving us the regional championship. We are so happy, so happy.
What should we expect in the national competition?
We won't make any promises now, but we are expecting to put up the best. So currently, it is God, National Science and Math Quiz. We are expecting to put up our best, put in our best, and come out with the best result.
I've been speaking to the Koforidia branch manager for ABSA Bank, Edwin Bleponi. He's urging corporate institutions to support programs like the National Science and Math Quiz.
As a nation, as corporate Ghana, we need to get behind the study of science and math because we can't get away from it. Technology, science, big data, artificial intelligence is the future. And if we want to be relevant in the future, we have to promote this. And this is what as ABSA we stand for. That is our Africanicity spirit.
Samuel Ajo, who is with Primetime Limited, organizers of the National Science and Math Quiz, says there's more to be expected in the national competition in October.
So it's very unpredictable. You cannot really pinpoint or really predict as to this school A or school B that's going to win, because judging from what we have witnessed so far, it's only the battleground that will tell who is going to triumph or who is going to win. And so it's going to be a very exciting moment, but I keep saying that there's going to be a lot of tsunamis happening. Yeah, so I want to say a big thank you to Ghana Education Service for their immense support and contributions, sponsorship of the program. Without them, I'm not sure we'll be here today. And of course, in partnership with ABSA Bank, who have been with us all through, especially sponsoring the regional championship as well. Then I'll also mention JoyNews for the media coverage they continue to give to us. So a big thank you to all of these institutions.
I've also been speaking to the quiz mistress who moderated the competition here in the Eastern region.
It was competitive. Well, I was expecting it to be competitive and I was not disappointed. Yes, but there were some surprises as well.
And those are the students from St. Peter's Senior High School, obviously excited about that win.